Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Transformational Talks with Coach BJ. Come on in for this live talk tonight. I am so excited to introduce my guest for tonight. So come on in. I'll let you guys have a moment. If you hear us laughing, it's because we came off of something coming in here. So this evening, let me know that you are here. We are so excited to get into this mental health talk. It's been Mental Health Month, and we just really need to get our mental health ready and together, our whole life together, coming off of this pandemic this evening. Good evening, Deborah. Thank you for watching. As always, good evening. I'm going to continue to let some folks come in here because our introduction is going to be a little bit different tonight. So I want to make sure that most people, catch it. So I'm just going to wait for a couple more people to come in. But thanks so much for watching.
While we're waiting, Coach BJ, let that baby in.
Yeah.
No. It'll be the highlight of our show.
I know. No babies in the live tonight. No babies in the live. Oh my goodness. So welcome everyone. I see more people are coming in. Let me know that you are here if you so desire. Please share this live if you are so led. We're going to be talking about mental health tonight, which is so needed in our community and just so needed in what we're going through right now. Yes, we're coming off the pandemic, but the pandemic has done a lot for us. In addition to all of the other stressors and everything that we have going on. So definitely share. We'll go ahead and get started. So again, want to thank you guys for coming on. Good evening, Jan. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. So before we get started, as I let you guys know every time, this is a special Ask the Expert. Typically I have the Ask the Expert on Thursday nights, but we had to do a makeup session because I did not want to let this beautiful, wonderful woman of God get away from sharing her wisdom, knowledge, and the gift that God has given her to share with us tonight. So I'm so glad that we were able to work it out and be able to reschedule it for this evening. But again, before we get started, go ahead and get your journals and notebooks out so you can be able to take notes about the things that she's going to share with us tonight for sure. So I will just let you know our special guest tonight is Miss Venessa Abram. And Vanessa and I met actually through one of our business partnerships not too long ago. And it's like once I met Vanessa, we instantly connected. Like our synergy, our purpose, our gifts, definitely have a lot of synergy, was pretty much mirrored the same. And we both realized that our passion and our desire was pretty much the same. We want to help people. We want to move people forward. She is an amazing woman of God, like I said, and I'm just so excited that God has blessed me to meet her. And we're going to be doing some more work together in the future for sure, because again, our purpose is so similar together. And I'm just so grateful that, she is here with us tonight and going to be able to share this information with us. So again, for all of my faithful watchers that are watching this evening, typically I introduce my guests and sharing a little bit more about them. But tonight we have a special production. Miss Vanessa, she's going to actually has an introductory video that really will highlight a little bit more about her. So without further ado, I'm going to let Miss Vanessa take it over. And again, thank you guys for joining, and I will be back at the end.
Okay, y'all, I'm sorry. It's not playing. Let's see. We get it back on here. I apologize. It's always something with technology. But without further ado, we will get it going. One moment, please. Is it playing? It's not playing, though.
Yeah, it's not playing for some reason. I'm not sure why, because typically it will automatically. Okay. The volume is not there either.
Really?
Mm-mm. We'll apologize, everyone. We're just having a little bit of technical difficulties, but we will be with you in 1 second.
Yes, let's see here.
So stick with us. Good evening, everyone.
Share. And the volume is not there, huh? What about now? Can you hear that?
No.
No?
Mm-mm. No, it's just showing a picture. So I don't know. You may have to go old school on us.
Yeah, I think I may, y'all. I think I may. I think I may. I just wanted to, I wanted to show you all a quick commercial about what I do. I am Vanessa Abram. And what you see there
There it
is
is
still
now.
going. You can hear it?
Now I can hear it now.
Oh, wow.
Offering mental health awareness and tools geared toward mental illness, suicide, and bullying. Vanessa shares lived experiences so the audience can relate, as well as offer an abundance of mental health resources that will start the journey of recovery. She offers corporate level training, group training, as well as personal training that will afford you mental health and wellness. With suicide rates being at an all-time high, she offers proactive services and education that will create a healthy work environment. Introducing Vanessa B. Abram.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Coach BJ, to have me on. It's definitely a blessing, and I really appreciate it. Coach BJ, can you please put our website up? It's www.sdp3.org. I am Vanessa Abram. I am God's child. First of all, first and foremost, I must give honor to whom honor is due, whom is the head of my life, and that's why I'm still living today. I am the CEO. I am also a suicide survivor and a sibling survivor. And what that means is a suicide survivor. Um, what I want to share with you is very personal. I'm passionate about it, and God has anointed me for my purpose to do this. So, my organization is Self Discovery, Pain, Positioning, and Purpose Incorporated. We are a mental health, suicide prevention, and crisis intervention service, 501c3 organization in Swanee, Georgia, on a mission to eradicate suicide by way of creating mental health and wellness tools, tips, and education around the country. So we traveled pre-pandemic and we've been on pause for a minute, but that didn't stop us. We still were doing things virtually, and now that things are slowly opening up and with wisdom and care and measurements put in place, we will begin to go back into the community to do work. So without further ado, self-discovery. Self-discovery is knowing who you are not, but yet who you are becoming in the process. That becoming is when we're in the midst of a fiery trial or a test. That is when I've learned is when God does his best work, when I am in pain and when I am in a valley. Our pain positions us for purpose, and thus self-discovery, pain, positioning, and purpose incorporated. Here you see, this is my dog, which passed. It'll be a year next month, actually. There is no health without mental health. And if you are pet lovers, you will know exactly what I am talking about when it comes to a pet, especially having this pet for 17 years. They're little people, to be honest. So what I want to do today, I want to share with you all about um, mental health and wellness. Today we're going to learn about mental health, the wellness and conditions, suicide awareness. We're going to talk about the overview of crisis and de-escalation intervention techniques, wellness, self-care, the power of sharing your story, and community resilience model. Today, we actually probably will not have time to do the community resilience model, but you're more than welcome to contact us, and we can definitely get that over to you or to your organization for a workshop. So the objectives today, you will gain an understanding of mental health. You will also gain an understanding of the mental health conditions. You'll gain insight into the signs and symptoms of mental illness. You will we will also review and learn basic crisis and de-escalation intervention techniques. We will gain tools for self-care and emotional health management. Utilize knowledge gained from this course to promote mental health awareness and the power of sharing your story. What is mental health? Mental health, it involves our biological, emotional, psychological, social, and spiritual well-being. It impacts how we think, feel, and behave. Mental health, it determines how we cope, manage, and navigate the stresses of life to relate to ourselves, others, the world, and to make decisions. Did you know depression is the number one disability in the world? Did you know? And now with the pandemic at hand and mental health is the new epidemic on top of the pandemic, it says here, back then, pre-pandemic, there were 3 times more people with mental illness in jails and prisons. Now with the pandemic, that has quadrupled. Over 90% of people who die by suicide have had one or more mental health conditions. There is a very, very short YouTube clip here that really defines how we can look at a book and not open the cover to really see what's going on. It's a man that has schizophrenia, looks normal, just as normal as me and you, but yet he and his wife are on the journey of recovery of health and wellness for his schizophrenic mental health disorder. Mental illness, it's defined as it disrupts our thinking, our mood, our behavior, daily functioning, relationships, physical health, school and work attendance, ability to learn, developmental milestones, long-term success. Some of the common and persistent mental illnesses are anxiety disorders, major depression, and I'm not going to read through all of them, but this is a list, and this is not all encompassing. This is just a few. Post-traumatic stress disorder, OCD, which we call obsessive compulsive disorder, eating disorders, borderline personality disorders, which is connected to narcissism, and the many others that are listed here. How do we recognize mental illnesses? So some of the signs of how we recognize, I get this question all the time. How do I know when my loved one is struggling? Excessive crying, wearing layers of clothing in the summer, seeing or talking to people who are not there, poor hygiene and grooming habits, body tremors, intense mood swings, impaired speech, slow speech, and then some of the symptoms, feeling hopeless, racing thoughts, trouble concentrating, depressed, hearing voices, changing in eating and sleeping habits, loss of energy, and to all of this, to that point is when the person is not acting as their normal self, is when that's a red flag. That's called a red flag. That's letting you know, hey, something is not right. And many of us don't pay attention to that because many of us will think in our heart that, hey, they're just trying to get attention or this, that, or the other, but yet it is a red flag. And again, this is during the pandemic, so these numbers have increased. Over 90% of people who die by suicide have had one or more mental health conditions, and there are over 47,000 completed suicides per year. Did you know that suicide is the 10th leading cause of death nationally? Second for a college student, second for our childhood students, 15 to 24. That's why it is so important, especially we're coming out of this pandemic, getting ready to for the new school year. We have to get to our kids. If you need self-discovery, SCP3 is what we go by to come in and provide presentations to the parents, the PTO, whatever the case may be. We have this is a public service announcement. It is imperative that we get to our kids, because if we don't get to our kids, someone else will, and it won't be the way that it should be as it relates to if we get involved, if we get educated, if you will, if we learn the triggers and if we learn how to identify these type of issues, it wouldn't be so bad. And then also in this mental health sector, the children, one of the main points of contact should be an adult, someone that they can have a constant relationship with, even if it's not the parents, because usually as a kid, I'm from Gary, Indiana, it wasn't my parents that I took to. It was someone outside of my parents. And it was actually a couple of my teachers, and I'm still in touch with those that are still alive today that really coached and mentored and loved me along. So just know that even if the kid is not adapting to you, it's just so important that they get a hold of some stable, strong adult support. I'll go to this last bullet over 6,200 young people ages 15 to 24 die by suicide each year, one suicide every 2 hours. Some of the risk and protective factors of suicide, and again, I won't read all of these, but I'm just going to go through them. The risk factors: history of mental health conditions, isolation, losses, stressful life events, and we're just going to be honest. This COVID-19 pandemic has really, really increased the factors of suicide. Some of the protective factors could be access to medical, mental health, and substance abuse services, especially if you're in a rural town, if you don't have insurance. Many different factors can contribute: healthy activity, school, or community connectedness. And this bullet, number one, prevention. Protective factor for suicide prevention in teens is connectedness to a relationship, to an adult. So that is what I was just talking about with the previous slide. And then also thankfulness, resilience, learning how to resolve conflict. Because as a believer, I know that we will encounter trouble, but it's about how I will embrace the trouble and how I will go through and grow through the storms of life so that I can become better, which is called resilience. So we need to teach these skills to our kids because we won't be around long. And as far as parents, we won't be around them forever. So we need to put in them what they need in order to survive, especially the things that we were not given as children that was passed along generation to generation. Warning signs: 9 out of 10 people give warning signs, whether it's verbal or nonverbal. Take all signs seriously, people. I get calls all the time where some may have not taken the signs serious and kind of pushed it to the side. No, when someone says that they are going to do it or thinking about it, please take all signs seriously. I am a witness, and I know all too well what it's like to talk about dying, about suicide. Warning signs has attempted suicide before, severe losses, maybe death, maybe divorce in the household, drastic changes in behavior, sudden happiness after a prolonged depression, self-harming behaviors. Many of our kids cut, self-inflict cigarette burns, and etc. Loses interest in personal appearance. Also, I would say, unexplained anger, aggression, and irritability, as well as acquiring a gun or stockpiling pills. When is crisis intervention needed? It's needed when a person can't see his or her way out. The person can't commit to not harming themselves, such as a contract for life. And then the person has a plan and also has access to the means, and has a history of attempts. But most importantly, if your discernment tells you that the person isn't safe, please follow through with your discernment. So on-scene crisis intervention. So when you are in a crisis or someone is in a crisis and you're there on the scene, these are just a few things that you can do. With self-management, you engage with empathy and establish and build rapport. And then safety management, make sure that you secure the scene, you access for medical needs and manage people at the scene. And then lastly, assess the person's physical and mental state, supervise the person constantly, assess the risk of suicide, and assess for transportation needs to the emergency facilities. So here's an overview of crisis and de-escalation intervention techniques. So a crisis is a crucial or decisive point, traumatic change in a person's life, any situation in which a person's perceived ability to cope is exceeded, and what is deemed as a crisis by the person may not be interpreted as such by others, which means that their emergency may not be your emergency, but we have to respond in the way of de-escalating, so that you, one, can help them to understand that there is nothing that is so important that they will take their lives, and provide hope for them. Again, all of this is done by educating yourself, and SDP3, we're on the front lines doing that with many communities across the world. Crisis can arise from 6 different factors, y'all. Did y'all know that? So here's the escalated person in the middle. It can be mental illness, it can be perceptions, it can be medical conditions, situational stress, triggers, or substance abuse. So just a few for the adolescents: parental conflict. I was a child of a divorce, so I know all too well about that. Suspensions or expulsions from school, health-related issues, negative encounter with law enforcement. We know all of that all too well in the times for today. That's why I pray that you will educate your babies as it relates to mental health and wellness. We are in a time where I've never seen the time, but again, nothing is new under the sun, but yet we have to impart and educate ourselves and pass that on to our children so that they will be able to live a life of resilience in the midst of whatever comes their way. Bullying, mental health deterioration. We also have religious and spiritual dilemmas. And in the adults, it's a little bit similar. We have the financial issues, family crisis, divorce, work-related and health-related issues, mental health deterioration. And this is really a big one. Parent aging, and you're giving care. You're giving care to your family. So that's a lot in there. So crisis intervention and de-escalation, it resolves a crisis through problem solving rather than by force. And it helps to reestablish equilibrium and safety. So here's what you can do. On the left side, you see the graph where the person is at a high rate of tension and a high rate of a crisis. You are at the bottom and pretty low. We want you to stay at that low tension, that low peace, and while he's at that high, because you cannot go into a crisis situation and you're just as high as they are. You will push the buttons and it'll be the wrong button. So please be aware of your own feelings and your triggers. And some people attempt to push others' buttons just to get them to react. It is what it is, but we have to be mindful, self-confident, and self-controlled enough to be aware of our own posture, voice, and tone. Wellness and self-care, compassion fatigue, and I'm sure we've had this in the past 2 years with everything that's been going on. Compassion fatigue, it's a state experienced by those helping people or animals in distress. It's an extreme state of tension and preoccupation with the sufferers of those being helped to the degree that it can create a secondary traumatic stress for the helper. And this is by Dr. Charles Figley. So here's just a few ways that you can recognize signs and symptoms of compassion and fatigue. You're holding in your emotions. You have GI problems. You have constant colds, which means that I can't think of it just passed went out my brain, but our levels of health as far as fighting off things is low. So we get sick. You're sad, isolate from others, mentally and physically tired. You wear a mask and you abuse substances, excessive blaming. You also will have compulsive behaviors such as overspending, overeating, gambling, sexual addictions, and then there's difficult concentrating as well as flashbacks to traumatic events. How do we promote self-care and mental wellness? Be kind to yourself. Take positive actions. Establish personal boundaries, which means what works for you and what doesn't. A boundary is saying that, hey, if Coach BJ called me today and say, hey, Vanessa, can you do this on tomorrow at noon? Instead of appeasing her, I would have to create that boundary because I already have something in place, number one. But then number two, for my mental health and wellness, I have to create a boundary so that I can continue to be healthy and not overload myself. So creating personal boundaries, it's not easy, but it's very, very doable. And then the end result will be that you have more self-care. You will also have more of a peace of mind. And then you're more in control, okay? And then understand that those closest to you may not be able to understand and provide the relief you need. Been there so many times. So just please understand that. But there are resources. There is a wazoo. There are so many resources that you can connect with that understand you. And SVP3 is one of them. And I will provide more resources at the end of this presentation. Identify your areas of strength and then engage in healthy activities. Get you plenty of rest, good sleeping and eating habits. One thing for me, my sleep, I've learned that I must get 8 hours of sleep. But when I am really overworked spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, I can just sleep. And I'll tell my husband, just let me sleep until I wake up. And then I'm revived, I am refilled, and I'm ready to move forward to the next assignment. So Sleeping is always good in eating habits. Have a safe way to vent. Have someone that you can vent to and a very strong social support outside of work. And I would say family as well. Always checking your mental health vital signs, your triggers, and if something is not, or maybe something is rubbing you the wrong way, that's a flag, a red flag. That's called a trigger. So we must learn what our triggers are, learn the triggers, create the boundary, and then begin to do the work. Learn the triggers, create the boundary, then do the work. One more time. Learn the triggers, create the boundary, then begin to do the work. Okay. Laughter. Laughter is something that I am really working to get to after the passing of my brother. It'll be 5 years in September. It's really been really hard to just laugh, but I've had it, but I'm looking forward to laughing more because you know what? It boosts the immune system. It lowers stress hormones, and it triggers the release of endorphins, whether you knew that or not. Being grateful, oh my gosh, and serving other people really, really changes the trajectory of your thoughts when you serve someone else. And you realize that, wow, there are so many other people worse off than me. And then also creating a WHAM, which is a whole health action management plan. My business partner and board advisory person, Dr. Morris Cassell, said, hope. Hope says it may not be happening now, but it will happen. I will wait until there is a way out. So the power of sharing your story. When we experience a mental health crisis, it is imperative to share our story. And I will say this, sharing your story is so powerful on many different levels, simply because one, it'll stop the stigma that's connected to mental health. Two, it will get your voice heard. Somebody is waiting to hear your voice. There's only one you and I in this world. And somebody, God has designed it for somebody to yearn and to wait to hear your voice and your story. And then lastly, it creates a legacy of when we're long gone, our stories will still be relevant even in a different time and a generation. I also have a book publishing company, Purpose and Prosperity Book Publishing Company, where all my authors and co-authors are award-winning bestsellers. And I do that simply because, again, of what I just stated, to destigmatize the myths and to let people hear our voice and our stories. Your story matters, and so do you. Even when you feel alone, you are not alone. There is always someone even worse or even going through the very same thing that you're going through. One of my resources and business partners is Mommy Georgia, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, a plethora of education. I would strongly, strongly advise you to connect with Mommy. And if you need more information on that, please feel free to connect with us at our website at www.svp3.org. And then another advisory board that I am on with United Survivors, we created an online share your story educational tool to teach people how to share their story. My story is I am a suicide survivor. My last attempt was 10 years ago, but then when my brother passed, older brother passed, which is a U.S. Army. It never gets easy talking about this, but this is a U.S. Army decorated veteran, passed by suicide. It'll be 5 years in September, and it hasn't gotten, the pain hasn't, and it has lessened to a degree, but I'll always have that sting, and that's what keeps me going, to continue to keep his life and death alive and to let people know that your story matters and that you matter and that his voice will forever be heard until I leave this earth. And even when I leave, creating that legacy now for them. So it's so important to share your story and not be ashamed. You are who you are. Again, self-discovery. Self-discovery is knowing who you are not, but yet who you are becoming in the process. Faith without works is dead. So that's a verb. We got to keep it pushing. We got to keep it moving. He didn't say how fast or how slow, but we got to keep pressing forward towards the mark. So this is one of my favorite quotes and one of my favorite people. Do the best you can until you know better. But when you know better, do better. And that's from the late Dr. Maya Angelou. So here is our call to action. Sign up for our newsletters to get dates for free trainings, educational workshops. There's our website, You can also use the community resilience model, which we do offer workshops on that as well. And then join our organization or NAMI, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, to gain free education that will broaden your mental health knowledge base. And you see the websites there. And then I call to you to break the myths, the barriers, and stigma by talking about the importance of mental health and wellness. Apply your learnings daily. I also ask that you serve others. Servitude is absolutely a must. Serving others help us to learn we're not alone, and many suffer in silence without the support and knowing that, hey, I've gone through this. If I've gone through it and God has brought me through it, let me help you get through it too. And then lastly, there is our evaluation form there. If Coach BJ, if you can, if I can send you that so that we can put it in the chat so that we can get an evaluation of how we're doing and what we need to do better and what more that you want to hear. Mm-hmm. Lastly, champion mental health, wellness, and resiliency. Here are some of the resources, just a minimum, not very many, but the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. It's 1-800-273-TALK. Again, it's 1-800-273-TALK. And actually, they are in the courts right now, National Suicide Prevention Line, to change that number to 988. 911 is the emergency, right? So they're making this as an emergency. And we've been fighting for this for probably the last 2 to 3 years for them to change that lifeline to 988. So 911, the emergency for medical emergency, 988 for suicide emergency. So that's a great resource. Georgia Crisis Access Line, GCAL. You can go to their website at mygcal.com, 1-800-715-4225. GCAL, if you have a crisis, GCAL is the number that you can call, and they will bring somebody out to give an assessment. And if that assessment leads to an inpatient stay, they will find somewhere to transport the patient to. And then NAMI Georgia, there's the resource helpline. And then also we have our information on here for self-discovery. And then lastly, Trauma Resource Center here at the bottom, where they talk more about community resilience model, which we train in the state of Georgia and actually around the country as well as it relates to community resilience. Lastly, hope is an anchor, y'all. Hope is an anchor. And that's all we can do is just hold on to that anchor as a hope. And you may be the hope that someone will only see. You know, my good friend, Kevin, I just lost his name, but he jumped off of the bridge. It's late, you guys, and I've been going hard since this morning. But he jumped off of the San Francisco Bridge. And one thing that he said, that when he was there contemplating on jumping, people were just walking past. They saw him crying, didn't say anything. The lady saw him crying and then asked if they could take a picture, if he could take a picture of them. No one gave him any attention and said, hey, how can I help you? Hey, is there something that I can do? And he jumped. And he said, as he was jumping, he said he did it. But through the grace of God, he's still living and he's sharing his story. That is the power of sharing one story.
Thank you, Jesus. Wow. Vanessa, I have some thoughts to say, but there is a question that came into the chat as well. And I do have a question of my own before I give my thoughts as well. So let me put it up here. Caroline had a question. What are your thoughts about mental treatment via social media? And she gave the example TikTok.
I don't really understand that question.
Okay. Caroline,
if I'm looking at that right, so I need you to kind of go a little deeper, because if you're saying to me, what are your thoughts about mental treatment versus social media?
No,
ma'am. Via
social media, and she gave the example of TikTok. So I guess like
what, therapists on TikTok or?
Caroline, if you can restate your question, I'll wait till it come up. I know sometimes there can be a minute before the feed comes in. If Caroline, if you can restate your question, I guess to help us to understand so she can answer it, that'll be great. In the meantime, while you're doing that, I will, she said actually yes. So yes to which one, yes to what? Like as it relates to what are your thoughts about mental treatment via social media? Meaning, like she said, the therapist. What were some of your questions, Vanessa?
Or telehealth. I think she's talking about telehealth. If that person has their credentials and you've checked their credentials, telehealth. You just don't want to go to TikTok and get anybody. You don't want to go to social media and get anybody, because there's just so many people, imposters on there. But you want to get telehealth, and there are some great people on social media, yes, but you need to do your research to make sure that this person is legitimate, one, and then two, if this person can serve you in the capacity that you need to be served. Because every therapist or psychiatrist that I've had to fire several. And I've had to advocate for myself. So advocacy is a whole nother program. You guys are a whole nother workshop. We got to advocate for ourselves. So yes. Telehealth is good, but you just got to know who is filling you with the information and the resources and the tools and the therapy. Just because they're on TikTok or Facebook, and there are some lucrative people on there. You just got to do your research, hands down. Do your research, check out the references, testimonials, and if they don't vibe with your spirit, you got to shake the dust off your feet and keep it moving and find you another one. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, she said she heard that for young people, and I know, of course, a lot of young people are driven to TikTok for various reasons. So yeah, that is kind of different. I hadn't really heard anybody getting mental treatments on TikTok. We can't hear you, Vanessa. Is there a thing with mute? Your thing is on mute. I don't know if it's that, because when you took out your headsets, okay, there you go.
Okay, sorry.
She said thank you.
You're welcome, but just be careful. No, you need somebody lucrative. And again, I'm not saying they're lucrative. They are not lucrative, because there's some very lucrative people out there, but you got to make sure you're getting what you need. And especially for our babies, y'all, we definitely no, because that's the norm now, is the social media stuff,
I'm also, this is my question, because I've connected with a lot of people now, and I know you gave your resources at the end. And for those of you who are watching or will watch the replay, definitely capture that information, because I've heard from friends and family. There is a very high rate of teens, probably within between the age of 10 and probably 16 or so within that age group for some reason, are, that's what they talk about. Suicide and some of it is manipulation about suicide. Some of it is actually real. It's almost like it's a thing. Like, what would you share with, someone who's out there listening who maybe have heard? Because like I said, I have definitely friends who have come to me about their nieces or, their children running away from home, threatening to kill themselves. And it's so disheartening, because I guess me growing up, I didn't,
we didn't have all that. No, we didn't have all that.
It wasn't really all that.
Social media. It wasn't even called bullying back then when folks were chasing me home. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't have a name for it, bullying.
Right.
So,
do they have a special entity or organization that kind of focuses specifically on that, or is just a standard, suicide line? Or what advice would you give a parent or someone who might be going through that with the youth?
I would say, you definitely can contact us or contact any of the other organizations that I listed. I need to also add Mental Health America, because I'm on the board for many different major Georgia behavior health entities here. One is DBHDD, where I am their secretary. Another is Resilient Georgia. And the list goes on and on. I'm inclusive in these to learn and to share. So when I hear something that don't align with the journey, because there's a difference in the journey, there's a difference in practical versus what's in the book. Right. Because my journey was not in the book, Dr. what's her name, when she wanted to tell me, okay, you need to snap out of it, and he's been gone. No ma'am, no ma'am, no ma'am. And that's a whole different thing about advocating. NAMI, NAMI.org. You guys, I am a certified teacher, speaker for them. I'm gonna tell you, when my brother passed, I was going to attempt. Okay, I was going to attempt. I didn't even speak it out, but the Lord heard me, and He said, "If you do," and He said it just as me and you talking, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
If you do it, your son will repeat the action. I said, oh, well, I'm not going to do that then. So I ended up going in the hospital. And I don't have any shame, people. Understand this. One of our taglines is no shame, no silence, no stigma, no suicide. It is what it is. I'm diagnosed with PTSD from my brother's death, complex grief disorder, major depressive disorder, and anxiety. Hey, it is what it is. I ain't ashamed about it because it's not who I am. It's just a piece of who I am. And now I'm learning how to balance that thing. And you know what I'm also learning, Coach, is that this will be until I die, until I take my last breath, that I got to learn, Coach, how to balance this, because every day, as you know, as we were talking before this kicked off, it's always something. It's always something. So what am I doing? I'm learning my triggers. I'm learning how to be mindful. Coach, I never heard the word mindful so much in my life. As a child, I know my parents said, keep your mind and focus, but it wasn't the term mindful. And mindful, I'm really learning that mindful is minding your mind. We can let them sick, crazy thoughts go through, but you ain't got to act on them. You can change that trajectory of that thought really quickly by counterreacting with something positive.
Right.
It's a deep and it's a spiritual walk. Many, just as I did once upon a time, because I was shamed. Again, I'm from Gary, Indiana. We lived in Indianapolis for 16 years before moving to Atlanta. And then when I was in Indianapolis, when I first went through my breakdowns, I just thought it was just for like this period of time. I was so ashamed, girl. I didn't want my husband to know. I didn't want him to know I was taking medicine because he wasn't there either to understand it. Because he's like, why you just can't snap out of it? Why this? But he's had his own epiphany, and now he sees that no, mental health. There is no health without mental health. Period. Right. And you know what, Coach? That's the first thing to go. Let me share this really quickly with you. When I woke up in the hospital, my daughter found me. Had she not found me, I would have died. So she found me, called an ambulance. I woke up in the hospital the next day, and when I woke up, she nudged me, and I could remember it like it was yesterday. And it was real foggy, and all I saw was a shadow. And she said, Venessa, do you know you're a miracle? Nobody has ever lived the way your lungs look and the amount you ingested. I was so mad. I was mad for probably weeks until the Lord had to deal with me with that because I was done. I left a note. I was done. Through the grace of God, to fast forward to the day was all for a reason.
That's right.
It was all for a reason. And I asked the Lord, if you help me get and grow through this valley of pain with my brother, because I don't know how to do this, Lord. I'm a baby of 5. Everybody else in Indiana and everybody else going, but what you give it to me for? He said, because this was yours to do in the beginning. And I did. So, and I don't brag on that. I brag on God because I know where my help and my strength comes from, Coach. If it had not been for him, you would not have met me. And I know that for a fact. And, Coach, that's why I got to be very careful of my boundaries, of the people that surround me, of the energy, because now I'm paying attention to things that if you're not serving me, you got to go. And I don't mean that, in a high and mighty way. I mean, if you're not imparting in me or pouring into me or I into you, you got to go. Life is too short. I've wasted enough of my own time. So, I'm still learning. I'm self-discovering every day.
Yes. I love it. I thank you so much. There isn't any more questions in here, but I did want to just, piggyback off of some things you said, earlier about sharing your story. And I don't think people really realize just how much your pain and purpose is connected. A lot of times, we want to hide. We want to be, like you said, be in shame and be guilty a lot of times, but really we need to focus on taking notice, because a lot of times it's your very pain, it's your very journey that God is using for you to turn around and be a blessing to somebody else. And that's exactly what God did for you. That's exactly what God did with you. I know a lot of times we may ask ourselves, well, why me, Lord? Why you had to choose me for this particular thing? But it's not really for us to question. It's just for us to just follow through and get his help and strength and to be able to follow through with the purpose he have and the calling he have on our life. So, I mean, I just appreciate your transparency.
Thank you.
Like I said, I know it's not really easy to really talk about those things and to really think those things and think about, and, you know, of course, this is a daily thing for you, a daily walk, right?
It is.
You know, and it's just, you know, and unfortunately, a lot of us, we hide behind, you know, we're ashamed. We don't want
mask, girl. A mask.
We don't want anybody to know what we got going on. We deal with it by ourselves, and we don't focus on the signs. It should be 1,000 people, you know what I'm saying, looking, you know, really researching mental health and really understanding more about mental health, but we don't. We hide from it because we want to act like it doesn't exist. But as soon as somebody commits suicide, as soon as, you know, something go down in our families, then we're just kind of like, well, what happened? And, you know, why did they come and talk to us? You know, because really it's up to us, realistically, for us to go do the research so we can look out for the signs and say, hey, that man on the bridge, you know, what you standing out here for? You know, you waiting on somebody, you need a ride, you need, you know, a one conversation, you know, with that.
And that's all he said too.
You know,
and if I call his name, you would know him because he's a world-renowned person now. But that's what he said. That's all I wanted was somebody to notice me. But the only thing, they saw me crying. The only thing that woman said is, can you take our picture on the bridge? And then he jumped. But he said on his way down, he regretted it. He said, I did not want to die. I was just in pain. And let me share this before we depart. You know, I still have suicide ideations from time to time. That doesn't mean I want to die. Many people have that day in and day out. It just means the pain is so immense. Now, when I come up with a plan, that's a different story. And when I come up with a plan, I'm about to call the hotline myself because I don't have a problem with calling the hotline. Matter of fact, I ain't got a problem with calling driving to the behavioral health place. That's how real it is with me. I don't care. I'm not here to please man. I'm here to please God and do what he's called me to do. And there's so many people, including in my family, that's hiding behind that mask. 2 years ago, pre-pandemic, we had two world tours taking off the mask. We wear masks so often, and the mask be pretty too. It'd be so pretty, but when you get behind that door, baby, a whole nother, not another, but a whole nother life transforms and the realness comes through. So y'all, please don't be ashamed. And I believe it's Revelations 11, and I don't think this is the right one, word for word, but it says that we overcome him, which is Satan, by the blood and the word of testimony.
Come on now.
So you better speak up or forever hold your peace, because when I cross over and he said, Vanessa, what did you do? All I want to hear, y'all, is well done, my good and faithful servant. I'm gonna take off and run to my mama that I've seen. God has allowed me to see standing behind some bad gold gates I ain't never seen in my life, but I'm looking forward to seeing them. So that's how real it is. This is a spiritual battle, people, and it's generational. Hello, somebody. It's generational. How many of us have had drunks or people that were sexed out or drugged out or whatever the case may be? But lo and behold, we judging like we got it all together. But did we not know they might have got raped? I mean, did we not know that they may have got molested by their daddy and their grandparent? Did we not know their story? Hello, somebody. Before you speak, crack that book open. Crack the book open. As a matter of fact, look in the mirror at yourself. You got your own story. All right, Coach, I'm done.
I tell you, no, it's okay. I appreciate you because, like I said, whether people are watching live or catch the replay, for those of you who are watching, please share this with your social media network. Absolutely. Jan Bolton said, amen. And Deborah said, preach, my sister. I mean, again, we really got to stop. And for those of you who are watching live or have caught a little bit of this, please share this information so people can be aware of the signs, please. Because I'm telling you, I have conversations with people, you know, I'm telling you about this very subject, and it's real. I really need for our community to understand that this is a real subject. This is happening every day. She shared the statistics. Go back and look at the information. Go back and look at the resource pages so we can be able to share this information with people, you know, because again, this platform and everything that I do, you know, and everything we do as us together is to really uplift, to encourage, to really open and shed light on topics and things that are not normally and traditionally shared. So I really wanted to open up this conversation. I know it's not one of those warm and fuzzy conversations, you know, to really have or whatever, but we really need to understand that mental health, and again, because of the pandemic, it has gotten even worse. So I wanted to make sure that I brought on Venessa to really discuss this. And please, you see, I've left it up here for a long time for a reason. Please write down her website, because she also have private Zoom, sessions with people. Even if you don't want to ask a question on here, even if you know somebody who might be suffering mental health, please connect with her in her ministry and her organization, because she actually allow and create the space for people to really talk and open up, where there is no guilt, shame. Everybody on her calls and her group sessions that she do are going through the same things, right? And these are free. These aren't, on her website, this is what she do from her own time, out of her gift and out of what God has given her. So again, please, even if you don't want to ask a question here, even if you know somebody that's going through it, again, I will say, please share her information and have them to connect with her directly. Don't nobody have to know. I know we don't want nobody don't nobody have to know, right? Y'all don't know who she is, and they won't know who she won't know who they are. So again, there's no judgment. I'd rather for you to get help and with, with this information than to just sit alone by yourself and suffer, right? With any of the things that she mentioned today. So as always, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Again, please share this. Please have someone to watch the replay on this, because this was some very great information. Venessa, thank you so much again for being my guest and taking out the time of your busy schedule to come on and talk about this very serious and well-needed discussion that we needed to have this evening. So thank you so much. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. And I will see you guys on Thursday night.
Okay, one more thing. Can I repeat one more thing?
Right
Just
ahead.
one more thing.
Sure.
I want you guys to really, really pay attention. Coach BJ just said something and it kind of stung me. Who are you trying to please? Man or God? We have one life and one life to live. Man has not a heaven or a hell to put you in. So why do we have a facade of trying to please man? The very person that you're trying to please is struggling themselves. Get yourself together.
Come on.
You can get it. You can do it. It's going to take some work, but I promise you, I'm a living witness and still doing some work. I'm not all that I should be, but baby, I'm not what I used to be. And I'm going to continue to press to the high call that's over my life. You allow nobody to stop you from getting the help that you need. God has positioned us and blessed us with people that have the wisdom and the knowledge. And just as I think it was it Miss Caroline that asked the question, he's placed people with that type of education, that divine wisdom and understanding. When you connect with that person, you should feel it in the belly. When you feel something other than that, you need to shake the dust off your feet and keep it moving. That's all I got to say. But hey, just understand, self-discovery is knowing who you are not, but yet who you are becoming. No silence, no shame, no stigma, no suicide. I thank you so much, Coach BJ.
Absolutely. Sister Jan Bolton said, thank you, ladies. Caroline said, God bless. And Miss Deirdre said, amen. So thank you guys. I love you guys. Have a good night. Bye.